It starts like any other morning, coffee, traffic, phones buzzing. And then everything changes. A flash in the sky. An alert you can't ignore. Rumors spreading faster than the truth. In hours, your routine, your safety, your connection, gone. This is not a drill. This is the first 24 hours of World War III in America. Will you survive the uncertainty or become part of the chaos? It begins like any other morning. Sunlight filters through blinds, coffee brews, and the faint hum of traffic fills the streets. Phones vibrate softly on nightstands, notifications blinking like distant signals, yet nothing feels out of place. People sip their coffee, scroll headlines, and step into routines they've followed for years, unaware that the world has already shifted. Somewhere thousands of miles away, a streak of light flashes across the sky. A missile launch confirmed only by satellites and instruments that silently register a threat most will never see. The information is immediate but intangible, creeping across social media feeds in fragments, rumors tangled with reality. A subtle tension hangs in the air, almost imperceptible but palpable. The ordinary begins to fray at the edges. As commuters pour into subways and cars, inch along morning traffic, an undercurrent of unease spreads, unseen but undeniable. The hum of machines, the chatter of colleagues, the routine of school buses, all continue, yet everything familiar now carries the weight of the unknown. Alerts begin to ping on phones, sharp and sudden, yet ambiguous enough that disbelief rises first. Is it a drill, a mistake? Something worse, the answers do not arrive. With every passing moment, the ordinary collides with the extraordinary. The first threads of chaos are woven quietly, almost invisibly, into the fabric of daily life. By the time anyone fully grasps it, the world has already begun to change, and nothing, not a routine, not a habit, not a certainty, will feel the same again. Phones vibrate simultaneously across cities, towns, and quiet suburbs, a chorus of insistent warnings that cannot be ignored. Messages flash across screens. National defense condition elevated. Remain indoors, await further instructions. Most people stare in disbelief, fingers frozen above keyboards and coffee cups. Is this a drill, a technical glitch, a hacker's cruel joke? The uncertainty presses on the mind like a weight, heavier with every passing second. Social media explodes in fragmented reports, some real, some fabricated, each claiming explosions in distant cities, missile interceptions, or foreign retaliation. The line between fact and rumor blurs almost instantly, and fear spreads faster than the truth could ever travel. Airports halt departures. Flight attendants look to supervisors with the same question: is this real? Subways stop mid-station, leaving commuters suspended in motion. Caught between home and work, unsure whether to retreat or advance, parents check on children, teachers brace classrooms, and law enforcement activates protocols written decades ago, plans rehearsed but never truly tested in real time. Sirens remain silent, but the tension resonates like a heartbeat everyone feels collectively across the nation. Even in offices where meetings are underway, murmurs ripple as colleagues glance at phones, then at each other. Eyes wide, the ordinary world collapsing quietly around them. The hum of daily life, cars, chatter, radios, continues externally, yet internally the rhythm is broken. Each person measures risk instinctively, instinct over reason, survival over routine. The sense of control slips, as if the ground beneath has shifted without notice. And still, amid the panic, there is a strange, shared cohesion. Neighbors check on neighbors, friends message friends, communities strain to understand what they cannot yet see. Authority looms in alerts and official broadcasts, but the tension is not softened by guidance. It is amplified because nobody knows the full picture, and everyone feels the weight of a world poised on the edge of catastrophe. By mid-morning, the effects of a world at war are visible yet elusive. Streets are still full of movement, but there is a subtle shift. Drivers hesitate at intersections, delivery trucks slow to navigate congested avenues, and pedestrians glance skyward, sensing that the ordinary has fractured. Supermarkets begin to feel the first tremors of panic as shoppers fill carts with bottled water, canned food, and essentials, each item chosen not for convenience, but for survival. The subtle rhythms of everyday life are being rewritten in real time. Meanwhile, digital systems that underpin modern society begin to strain. ATMs falter mid-transaction, online banking slows to a crawl, and websites that once provided instant news flicker intermittently, offering fragments of information that seem both urgent and unreliable. The invisible battlefield is not marked by smoke or fire, but by confusion, overload, and the silent war for clarity and control. In cities, power grids shiver under sudden demand. The hum of electronics becomes erratic, a subtle reminder that civilization's infrastructure is vulnerable. Rural areas feel a different kind of isolation. Cell towers drop one by one, communication gaps expand, and communities are suddenly separated from the wider world they took for granted. Anxiety spreads as rapidly as the alerts themselves. People clutch phones, scanning endlessly for updates, even as each message deepens the uncertainty. And yet, amid the fear and disruption, patterns of human adaptation begin to emerge. Neighbors call one another across fences, checking in, sharing what little they have. Local volunteers step in where systems have failed, establishing makeshift points of contact, emergency information centers, and distribution networks. There is a quiet resilience forming beneath the surface, a reminder that survival is not solely about avoidance or protection, but about connection, improvisation, and awareness. The invisible battlefield has no front lines, no clearly defined enemy. It is fought within homes, streets, and minds, in every decision made under pressure, in every instinctive act of precaution. And as the hours progress, the world's familiar rhythms are replaced by heightened perception, rapid adaptation, and the understanding that in modern war, the first casualties are not soldiers or cities. They are certainty, routine, and the comforting illusion that life will continue as expected. In this hour, Americans discover that survival will demand more than preparation. It will demand awareness, courage, and the ability to navigate chaos without knowing where safety truly lies. By midday, the fragile calm of morning has fractured completely. Social media feeds are saturated with conflicting reports, each one more alarming than the last. Explosions in cities thousands of miles apart, missile interceptions, naval clashes reported offshore. Video clips circulate, some authentic, most manipulated, creating a maelstrom where truth and rumor are indistinguishable. Phones buzz relentlessly, notifications pinging at impossible speed, and yet every alert seems to deepen uncertainty rather than provide clarity. Roads fill with cars as people leave offices, schools, and stores, instinctively seeking security, yet unsure where to find it. Grocery aisles are emptied within minutes. Shelves once stocked with water, food, and batteries vanish like sand through fingers. At gas stations, queues stretch endlessly, engines idling, tempers fraying, voices raised in fear and frustration. Even essential services feel the strain. Hospitals prepare for emergencies that may never arrive. Transit systems halt mid-operation, and law enforcement navigates protocols that no one has truly rehearsed for real life. Amid the chaos, television broadcasts loop emergency statements, voices calm and mechanical, repeating instructions that feel both vital and hollow. The constant influx of information, contradictory and fragmented, fuels a psychological storm. Anxiety, indecision, and helplessness ripple through the population, and yet, beneath this pressure, a quiet thread of resilience emerges. Communities organize ad hoc. Neighbors share information. Volunteers set up aid points, and those with skills in communications, logistics, or medicine step forward to fill the gaps left by overwhelmed systems. The contrast is stark. Fear and adaptation, panic and resourcefulness, running parallel in every street, home, and office. In these hours, Americans are learning that modern war is not only fought on battlefields, but across networks, screens, and minds, where perception becomes as critical as reality. Every decision, every glance at a notification, every hurried trip to stockpile supplies becomes a measure of survival. The invisible battlefield has expanded, and uncertainty is the only constant. In this environment, humans are both prey and predator of information, seeking truth in chaos, grasping at clarity in a world that refuses to provide it. By the time the sun reaches its peak, it becomes clear. The first casualties of this new war are not cities or soldiers. They are certainty, calm, and the comforting assumption that anyone can truly know what is happening around them. By mid-afternoon, the digital world Americans relied on begins to unravel. The internet stutters, social media flickers, and banking systems fail one by one. Debit cards decline at gas pumps. Online transfers stall mid-transaction, and once trusted networks fall silent. For the first time in decades, millions experience isolation not through distance but through disconnection. Panic is immediate, subtle, and profound. Without the constant stream of notifications, updates, and messages, people are left with their thoughts, their fears, and the unnerving realization that information, once infinite, is now finite. Streets become a mirror of this uncertainty. Drivers hesitate, unsure whether to continue, unsure where safety might be found. Supermarket aisles empty even faster than before, as those who acted early now leave the hesitant scrambling. The psychological weight is palpable. Humans are creatures of connection, and the sudden absence of it triggers a primal unease that surpasses even the fear of physical danger. Yet amid this disorientation, something begins to shift. Neighbors who barely spoke before now check on each other, sharing what little they can. Amateur radio operators become lifelines, bridging gaps in communication that corporate networks can no longer maintain. Improvisation takes root. Battery-powered radios, handwritten messages, and small community networks form fragile yet vital bridges across uncertainty. The fear does not disappear, but it transforms, tempered by the recognition that survival now depends on adaptability, awareness, and cooperation. Parents comfort children with routines that no longer rely on screens or external guidance. Communities discover resourcefulness in the face of absence. Each act of connection, each small measure of organization, becomes a victory against the creeping chaos. And as the hours pass, Americans begin to understand the harsh truth. In modern war, the first front is not the battlefield, and the first casualties are not cities or soldiers, but certainty itself. The world has gone silent in the ways that matter most, forcing every individual to confront their vulnerability, their dependence, and the raw necessity of human ingenuity. Survival is no longer abstract. It is immediate, personal, and irrevocably demanding. As evening descends, the world Americans once knew grows unrecognizable. Power outages darken cities, leaving streets illuminated only by the faint flicker of emergency lights and the occasional glow of a candle in a shuttered home. The hum of daily life has vanished. No music drifts from shops, no engines roar along the highways, no chatter echoes through office corridors. Curfews are enforced with a quiet authority. Police cruisers rolling through empty streets, their loudspeakers repeating instructions that feel both vital and hollow. Fear and uncertainty hang thick in the air, yet amid the darkness, the human spirit begins to assert itself. Families gather in homes, sharing scarce resources, comforting children who sense that the world is not as it should be. Neighbors, once strangers, exchange information and provisions across fences, over quiet yards, discovering in isolation the fragile threads of community that survive even the most disorienting crises. In apartment buildings and small towns alike, radios hum to life, carrying voices that connect the disconnected, delivering guidance, reassurance, or at least the sound of humanity reaching across the void. The night stretches long, and with it comes a subtle psychological transformation. Fear does not vanish, but it evolves into vigilance and resilience. Individuals learn to navigate darkness with improvisation, making do with what they have, building temporary order out of uncertainty. The flicker of light from a single candle becomes a symbol of hope, a shared meal or whispered reassurance, a quiet act of courage. In this first night, Americans are discovering that survival is as much about maintaining composure, connection, and empathy as it is about physical protection. Even as the shadow of war stretches across the nation, tiny sparks of human adaptability illuminate the darkness. The invisible battlefield continues, but now the participants are armed not with weapons, but with resourcefulness, awareness, and the subtle courage that arises when everything familiar has been stripped away. And as sleep finally descends, tentative and uneasy, the nation stands vigil, caught between fear and fortitude, between chaos and the first flickers of order, learning that the night of war is not defined by explosions, but by the quiet endurance of those who refuse to surrender to panic. Morning rises over a nation transformed. Streets are quiet, still lined with abandoned cars and empty storefronts, a stark reminder that the world Americans knew has fractured in less than 24 hours. The hum of daily life is absent, the rhythm of routine replaced by cautious steps and measured breaths. Families assess what remains: food, water, fuel, each resource now finite, each decision weighted with consequences. Communities once strangers to one another gather in small clusters, sharing supplies, stories, and guidance, discovering the enduring power of human connection amid scarcity. The psychological impact is palpable. Fear lingers, tempered by resilience, and the uncertainty of the first day gives way to reflection, strategy, and improvisation. Radios carry fragmented updates from officials, voices repeating instructions through static, offering reassurance that is simultaneously comforting and incomplete. Even as the digital world remains fractured, humans reconnect in older, more tangible ways, through conversation, shared meals, and collective problem-solving. The first casualties of war, certainty, routine, and the comforting illusion of control, have already occurred. Yet the emergence of adaptation, empathy, and ingenuity suggests a deeper truth. Survival is as much psychological as it is physical. Across the country, Americans learn the same lesson in countless ways: that life can shift in hours, that familiar systems are fragile, and that endurance requires awareness, courage, and community. The first day of a new conflict ends not with the destruction of cities or the fall of armies, but with the awakening of a people forced to confront vulnerability, reassess priorities, and rediscover the most fundamental tools of human survival. As dawn breaks, the nation is changed, quiet and vigilant, carrying forward the knowledge that the world has altered, that nothing can be assumed, and that resilience, small, deliberate, human, will define the days to come.